with Tamil Nadu or the South India. So here we use things like pumpkins, lemons, and coconuts. Why only these things?
I think they must have used animals as sacrifices. See, the way they do it, for instance, the pumpkin, if you look at it, it's like they cut open, put in this red kumkumam inside and mix it up and then close it and then they do this thing and go and break it open so that it becomes all reddish and it looks like blood and gore. Similarly, like a coconut, they will take it and break it so that it becomes shattered and there's a lot of this coconut water lying around and pieces of this white stuff. These three things that a pumpkin, a coconut and a lemon, they must have been replacements for various living animals.
Okay.
That's what I presume, because the way they do it, constantly that red associated gore and blood kind of feel.
Why people go for this Drishti? Does it really exist?
If you believe in it, it does really affect you. If you don't believe in it, it may not affect you. For instance, your neighbor's evil eye, pastime, can have a psychological impact on you.
Okay.
For instance, you are eating something, you are having a lunch at home, and your neighbor just walks in. And then she looks at your dinner plate or lunch plate and says, "Wonderful. By some chance, you have an upset stomach in the evening." Then you tend to find a reason for this suddenly a delicious food as turned kind of poison, toxic. So then you tend to associate it with this neighbor coming. If this happens twice, when you see a pattern, and then you say her drishti is bad, so I should avoid eating when she comes home. And you also tend to tell it to your other family members. Her gaze is bad.
Okay.
So you have started believing in something like that. Now it's a psychological problem. Your neighbor has got nothing to do. So how do you come to terms with the psychological issue? What you do is you have to be treated by somebody. So suppose I walk in and say okay fine, I'll do one thing. I will do this kind of some ritual and I tell you that by this you will be protected from this evil eye of your neighbor. Then you start believing it. This is more like a child, when it runs and falls, what do? The child keeps on crying. Then you say, "Oh, don't cry. Oh, this is the one, no, which tripped you. I will hit it." Okay? And you pretend to hit it, treating this as a living thing. And the child smiles. What happens then? Because of the fall, the hurt, that vanishes in 2-3 seconds. But the shock continues, or the shock or the trauma continues. So you need to relieve the child of the trauma. Otherwise the child is not going to stop crying. Because it just suddenly tripping there, it's a regular route which it's crossed many times. But suddenly it trips and falls and it's a shock. So now you have to give a reason for it to come to terms with that shock.
Okay.
So you make this the reason and you just say that I punished it. So the child is relieved. The same thing happens to an elder too. For instance, I made something. I created a painting. And suddenly I see a lot of people appreciating it. And then suddenly it goes on to win an award in a painting competition. And I don't know really whether I deserve the prize. And all the praises and accolades which come for me, they give reasons which are not there in the world. And suddenly I am confused. Do I deserve this praise.
Okay.
I did not intend. So then what happens is that I also enjoy the praises. I also enjoy the prizes which come with that. And then I feel guilty. Now when I feel guilty, it is going to affect me. And somebody comes and says, it's all because of the Drishti. And they have to relieve me of that burden which I am carrying from the adulations. So I'll have to subject myself to a psychological treatment. Slowly I start, believing those things have cast an evil eye on me. And then, now that is going off. So that relieves me of my all kinds of confusions I've got into. So that is what is the Drishti character. It does work.
So sir, now I know this does not exist. So now you have removed my support system. How do I tackle my depressions now?
See, most of the time what we human beings are, we want to believe what we want to believe.
Okay.
Though we know certain times that it doesn't exist, we would like to. All of us know if God exists. God does not exist with four hands, apartment, whatever.
Okay.
So what we do is God per se, we keep it as a concept. But then we need a relatable God form. So we create something and then we believe in it. So we tend to put aside our skepticism and believe in something. Then we can take it up whenever we want. We can again put it aside and then believe in something.